What is up, everybody? I am back, and today I'm looking at my 4th ever evolution video, 5th video overall, the evolution of Freddy Krueger. Let me tell you, he's got an evolution. Freddy Krueger is one of my favorite horror icons, if not probably my favorite of the big three, Jason, Michael, and Freddy. He has the most personality. Robert Englund just plays him so well. I think it has the most consistent movies, although there are some stinkers in there. But I love this series. It's one of my favorite horror series, and I love the ups and downs of it. It's my prized VHS collection. I just love how it creates the look for Freddy there with all the movies together, and it has all the films from the original series. It's probably one of my favorite horror franchises, so I was happy to do an evolution on this character, even if his changes are more subtle than, say, Jason Voorhees. Just the fact that it's Robert Englund, the makeup jobs they did, the world they created, the dream world that they created for each movie. Like, each movie has its own aesthetic, and because a lot of the kills happen inside dreams, which then affect the real world, they're able to get a bit more creative with the kills than, say, Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, who typically are stuck on the real world, maybe minus Jason X, who goes into space. And there is, of course, the Freddy vs. Jason crossover. I don't love it. It's like not an amazing Jason film, and it's not an amazing Nightmare film, but I think for the crossover that it was everything that people wanted in the early 2000s. So, let's jump into this evolution. I'll let you know a little behind the scenes facts, and little things that were going on in my head while I was creating this video. So let's jump into it right now.
Freddy Krueger defined 80s slashers, but with so many films under his belt, he was bound to go through some changes. From creepy to comedic to creepy again, let's go through his progression. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's wearing a red and green striped sweater, brown pants, boots, a fashionable fedora, and his signature bladed glove. To avenge his own death, he attacks the
That's, I think, the first time I used a newspaper to show something. I've since used that same newspaper prop in a couple of videos, most recently I believe in the Riddler video, so you can keep your eyes out for that.
Teenagers of Elm Street in their dreams, and is defeated by being ignored.
And that's Nancy, of course, from the first film. She's probably the main final girl from this whole series. A lot of people really like her character. She appears again in the 3rd one, canonically, and then the actress appears in the 7th one, non-canonically.
In the sequel, Freddy's Revenge, his nose is hooked, and his burn marks, which appear more embellished, extend further down his body. Green stripes are added to the sleeves of his sweatshirt, and his pants darken. His eyes are more demonic looking, and his blades are physically attached to his...
I think that's the first time I actually used the contacts, someone putting contacts in their eyes.
Demonic.
I used the same contact prop for a whole bunch of them. I think I used it in the Godzilla one. People tell me what are the ones I used it in. I know I've used it in a whole bunch.
Looking, and his blades are physically attached to his hand, 2 traits that would not carry over to the other sequels. This time, Freddy takes control of a young boy's body.
That's Jesse. He's the only final guy in the whole series, I believe. And instead of being a final girl, usually it's a girl who survives and is being tormented by Freddy the entire movie. Or basically most horror movies have a girl being the final character. But this is kind of switches it up, uses a male character, which I think is fun. And this one uses body horror, where he comes out of Jesse's body here. It's really cool.
And pops out.
And the actor who plays Jesse saw an image from my video and reshared it on his own Instagram, which is pretty cool.
And crashes a pool party.
And a lot of people have problems with this scene where Freddy comes out into the real world. He does it in the first movie too, very briefly, but he doesn't have his own powers in the real world, so that's how Nancy's able to defeat him. In this one, he kind of does have some of his powers, so I get people are a little bit annoyed at him coming into the real world, although they didn't really set the hard rules of the dream world till the 3rd film and then onward. So when people look at this one and say, oh, it broke the continuity, it didn't really. It just wasn't really set up 100% in this movie or the previous movie, so they were able to do it whatever way they wanted to. I really like this look for Freddy. It's one of my favorite ones. He looks more like a witch with the hooked nose. His skin is more visceral and I don't know, shiny looking. I don't know, it's very creepy and cool. I'm this is how you do a dark Freddy. The remake Freddy, it wishes it was this cool.
But when Freddy gets smooched by the young boy's girlfriend, he turns to ash. In The Dream Warriors, Freddy's look is consistent with the previous film, but he's shown shirtless for the first time, revealing a chest of screaming souls. He gets beat up by dysfunctional kids in the dream world, and is finally defeated when his human remains get laid to rest.
I really like that animation of Freddy disappearing. It happens in the real film. I just wanted to do a really quick animated version of it. And these are the Dream Warriors. They more or less appear in the next film, but for a very brief, small time.
The Dream Master resurrects Freddy with the power of dog pee.
Yeah, I think it's like in a dream where the dog pees on Freddy's corpse and then he's resurrected in the dream, so then he's back. The logic is very, very messy in these films, but I just think it's kind of funny.
He's the same Freddy, but his glove is slightly updated in color. Freddy neutralizes.
And you'll notice that the girl character, she's played by a different actress in this film, so that's why her model looks different. Patricia Arquette, who played her in the previous film, did not come back, so they got the Tuesday Night to play her in the fourth film. She might have done a song for this film. But yeah, when she dies in this film, I don't really feel too bad for her because it's not really the same actress. Doesn't really feel like the same character. She acts completely different. But I really like the fourth one because this is kind of like the MTV Freddy where he started like putting on sunglasses and just really having like fun with the kills. He does a little bit in the third film. He really starts to have fun with some of them. But I think this is the one that like cemented him as like an icon.
Neutralizes the kids from the last film, and this time he bursts when shown his own
So that's the character Alice. She takes over as the lead girl after the other characters are killed off, and she's the lead in the next film as well. I think she's my favorite final girl in this series. I think she has like the best arc, and I really like the actress who played her. The name is escaping me at this moment, but I really like her character, and her like confrontations with Freddy are all really cool.
reflection. Freddy is rebirthed in the dream
That is the grossest model. I don't know why that's what Freddy looks like as a demon baby. It's so gross, though.
child and grows quickly into an older, saggier version of himself with larger burn marks. He trains.
And this Freddy system, oh, that's a reference to It's Always Sunny, which has a dentist system. And I think that's like a really funny episode. So I've made like this like reference in a few other videos of mine. I'm not sure how many people caught it, but you guys should watch that show. It's hilarious.
A young apprentice in the dream world who unfortunately turns on him.
Ugh, the things that come out of his body are so gross.
And Freddy is absorbed by his mother. Freddy's dead.
I don't understand how the ending of that one works at all. It's such a messy movie, but it's like shot really well for the most part. Obviously, there are some scenes that are really not put together nicely, but like the set decor and everything, I think part 5 has some good stuff to it. Some pretty interesting kills too.
The final nightmare takes us through Freddy's upbringing as a child, then teenager, and finally as a middle-aged.
When he's a teenager, his dad is actually played by Alice Cooper, I believe, which is a fun cameo. I think he did a song for one of the movies or something. And this is the first time we actually see like human Freddy, I believe, in like an actual like flashback. I think there's like a flashback episode in Freddy's Nightmares, but this is like the first time you actually like really see Robert Englund out of the face paint, out of the costume, although he does still wear his striped sweater in the flashback.
Serial killer. He's burned to death, but manages to gain Dream Demon.
The Dream Demons. A lot of people have problems with the Dream Demon stuff. By this point, the franchise was so silly, I'll go with whatever they're saying. He had to become a demon somehow.
powers. Physically, Freddy retains the larger burn marks, but isn't quite as saggy. He faces off against his daughter.
But his daughter being dressed as a little girl, even though she's a grown woman at this point, it's weird. It's very weird.
Daughter who blows him up once and for all. Wes Craven's New Nightmare establishes the previous Freddy as a made-up movie character and introduces a taller, pale-eyed Freddy demon. This one wears a green hat, trench coat, leather pants, tall boots, a striped turtleneck, and an organic bladed hand.
I do like his look a lot for this film. I think they might have went a little too far, like trying to be like, this is like the real demon, and like the movie demon is different. They had to make him look a little bit different, I guess. But yeah, it's an interesting look, and like they make him look really tall and imposing in this film, which is fun. And yeah, Nancy appears again, but not as her character. It's actually Heather Langenkamp playing herself, who played the actress in this series. I would love to get that little toy dinosaur myself with the slashes on it.
He attacks the star from the first film, but gets cooked in an oven.
This is obviously just a little cartoony representation of what actually happens in the movie, because the actual oven that he's burned in is huge. So I just made it like a normal, conventional oven.
In Freddy vs. Jason, we're taken back to the original time.
And this is another version of Human Freddy. I believe this is like 15 years since like the last previous flashbacks. So he's obviously looks a little bit older in these flashbacks, which, you know, kind of goes a little bit against what happened before. But I like this look for Human Freddy a lot more. I think it's a lot more realistic looking. And I think Freddy vs. Jason is just a better film than Freddy's Dead.
Line and shown another version of Human Freddy pre-burn. This Freddy's burn marks are darker. His teeth are sharper, his pants are lighter, and the blades on his glove are larger.
Yeah, I kind of like the look for this film. I don't know if I like the dark burns, but like everything else they did with his look, I think is kind of interesting.
He raises Jason Voorhees.
Since I've done my Jason Voorhees video, I was like, hey, I can actually use a model that I've created before in full without having to even change it. So I was like so happy to be able to do that.
Used to do his bidding, but gets jealous of his kill count and faces off against him instead.
And if anybody's seen the movie, at the end, Freddy winks at the camera even though he's been beheaded by Jason, which shows that, you know, Jason may have won this fight, but there will be a rematch. And of course, there's never a rematch. There was sequel ideas that involved Hellraiser coming into the picture, that involved Ash from Evil Dead coming into the picture for a sequel. None of those ideas came to fruition, of course. Although I do like that we got that like fun early 2000s monster mashup movie. Kind of like the first time that that's really happened, at least on a big scale, since like the Universal monsters mashed up. So it's a fun movie.
The franchise would be rehashed, or, rebooted in 2010 with a shorter and more realistically burned Freddy Krueger.
So yeah, I probably would show like the actual changes more with this one, but because there was so many changes, I was just like, I just want to get this over with. When I was making this video, I had like a full-time job and a freelance job, and I was maybe only able to work for a few hours a day on these videos, so like I was like so tired. So I was just like, what is the quickest way to get this stuff shown? But I think this works out pretty well for, you know, how much effort I wanted to put into the into the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which is my least favorite of this whole series. I'll have to watch them again, maybe do a ranking at some point, but yeah, right now I think this is my least favorite one.
While creepier looking, he fails to live up to the Freddy we all know and love.
And yes, I have his sunglasses finally as like a nod to his part 4 when he puts them on the beach. Well, I guess that's the whole video. If I were to do it now, I'd probably zoom in and show like more detail on the characters, probably redesign a few things, but I think for the most part it like moves at a pretty quick clip. It doesn't really get bogged down the storylines too much. If I were to do this again, I would also love to include like the different looks for Freddy, like Super Freddy, the Snake Freddy, the Puppet Freddy, just like all the different weird variations of Freddy that aren't his main look, and maybe even like the weird video game Freddy from like the 80s. Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of stuff that I would love to do in like a remake of this video. So let me know what you guys thought of that video when it came out. Do you guys like A Nightmare on Elm Street more, or are you more of a Friday the 13th or Halloween fan? So let me know what you guys think about the Nightmare on Elm Street series, what you thought about my Freddy Krueger evolution, and until next time, I've been Aaron, and I'll tell you something later. Putting on my headphones. Putting on my headphones. Boop-a-doop-a-doo.